take you through the major happenings across India and the globe from the field of politics, business and sports. Also a regular segment on health and good news India story. Our top focus over the day, the International Court of Justice will deliver its verdict in a case relating to Indian national Kulbhushan Jadhav. Also, all eyes will be on the Supreme Court to see whether it will put an end to the Karnataka political crisis just a day ahead of the trust vote. But first up this Wednesday morning, the headlines we are tracking at the top of this hour. Well, the headlines there, International Court of Justice at The Hague to deliver its judgment on the merits in the Kulbhushan Jadhav case today. Jadhav was sentenced to death by a Pakistani military court on charges of espionage and terrorism after a close trial in April 2017. Supreme Court to pronounce its verdict on the resignation of Karnataka MLAs today. The apex court reserved the decision after debate on Tuesday. Government to face trust vote in the state assembly tomorrow. Flood situation in Assam turns critical with all 33 districts of the state facing deluge. 17 deaths reported so far and over 45 lakh people affected. In Bihar too, floods claim over 30 lives while affecting over 25 lakh people. NDRF, Army and other agencies engage in rescue and relief work. At least 13 persons killed and several others injured after a building collapsed in Mumbai's Dongri area. Various agencies carry out rescue efforts. President and Prime Minister express grief at the loss of lives. Central Board of Direct Taxes rejects social media reports that the taxpayers were facing difficulties in filing income tax return in ITR 2 and ITR 3 due to large-scale changes in ITR form. Clarifies no changes have been made in any of the income tax return forms. In international news, after inviting a lot of criticism for his alleged racist remarks, a majority of US House votes to condemn Trump's tweets regarding Democratic Congresswomen of color. Trump defends his tweets saying they are not racist and that he doesn't have a racist bone in his body. Germany's Ursula von der Leyen elected as the first female president of the European Commission. Leyen gets 383 votes from the members of the European Parliament and will replace Jean-Claude Juncker on 31st of October. And in sports, India's PV Sindhu to start her campaign in the women's singles category in the Indonesian Open Badminton Championship in Jakarta today. In the men's singles, Kidambi Srikanth will lead the Indian challenge. Well, now for the stories in detail. The International Court of Justice will deliver its verdict in a case relating to Indian national Kulbhushan Jadhav today. Jadhav was sentenced to death by a Pakistani military court on charges of espionage and terrorism after a close trial in April 2017. Our correspondent Amritpal Singh puts it all into perspective from ground zero at The Hague.
Final verdict in the Kulbhushan Jadhav case on Wednesday. At about 6:30 p.m. Indian time, President of the court, Judge Abdul Qavi Ahmed Yusuf, will read out the verdict in the presence of both parties, that's India and Pakistan. So what exactly is the Kulbhushan Jadhav case and what is the court going to rule on? The story begins in March 2016 when Pakistan claims it arrested Jadhav from Balochistan where he was involved in terrorist activities. After that, Pakistan secretly tries him in a Pakistani military court which awards him death sentence in April 2017 on 2 counts, espionage and terrorism. India challenges that at the International Court of Justice the next very month, that's in May 2017. India argues that Pakistan has breached the Vienna Convention for Consular Relations by denying Jadhav consular access, by failing to inform India about Jadhav's arrest and trial, and also pleads that Jadhav be freed immediately and his execution be stayed. The court rules that Jadhav should not be executed till the final verdict of the case comes at the ICJ. All eyes would be on the verdict for two reasons. One, the future, the well-being, the life of Jadhav depends upon this decision. And secondly, it will also set precedents and once again address the question that is the Vienna Convention for Consular Relations still relevant in the present world order. With camera person Jayashri Puri, Amritpal Singh, DD News, The Hague.
Well, to get a perspective there from ground zero, Amritpal Singh joins us this morning. Amrit, good morning. Amrit, it's an important verdict that we are expecting today. What could be its implications?
Yes, of course, it's a very important verdict. The verdict is important from the point of view that Jadhav's future depends upon this verdict. Does he live? Will he be treated fairly? Will he get justice? All that shall hinge upon this verdict that will be pronounced this evening. What will be the implications? Well, it's a technical case. The title of the case is India versus Pakistan Jadhav case. Basically, India has argued that Pakistan breached the Vienna Convention for Consular Relations by denying consular access to Jadhav, which means that while he was arrested, while he was in custody, while the trial was going on, he was not allowed to meet Indian diplomats. In that, if he demanded a lawyer of his choice, he was not granted because the Indians did not know that he was arrested, that his trial was going on. So in that sense, it was a secret trial by a military court, and we do not know what really transpired there, who represented him, what were the arguments made, were arguments made at all. Only a decision in April 2017 by the Pakistani army chief was announced that he has been sentenced to death on charges of espionage and terrorism. So India has countered that, saying that one, he's not a terrorist, he is not, the Indian agency is not on rolls or in touch with the Indian intelligence agencies, he was not doing any work for them in Balochistan, that he was involved in legitimate business activity in Iran, from where he was abducted by the ISI or its handlers and then taken to Pakistan, where a secret trial takes place, and it does not hold any value. India demanded that he be released immediately, and that he be released immediately. In the event of him not being released, a retrial should happen in a civilian court and consular access should be granted. So in that sense, the court is really going to rule on whether the breach of the Vienna Convention did take place or not. What the implications would be, it will depend. They could range from Jadhav walking free to a retrial in Pakistan, preferably in a civilian court. It could also mean the wording of the judgment would be very important. It could also mean that it, if the court rules that yes, there was a breach of Vienna Convention that happened, so Pakistan should look at reviewing the case and a sort of retrial there. Now, whether the court says a retrial by a military court, by a civilian court, so all that will depend upon this judgment.
Okay, Amrit, could it mean, there is a possibility of Kulbhushan Jadhav walking free?
Well, the possibilities are wide open. It all depends upon the judgment, one, and secondly, the wording of the judgment. If the wording is, broad-based, then it could lead to interpretations. But yes, on the table are all opportunities. India has argued for everything. India has argued for his immediate release and safe passage to India, while Pakistan has countered that by saying there is no breach of the Vienna Convention that has taken place. So it will all depend what the court rules. The possibilities could be, from theoretically speaking, from Jadhav walking free to a retrial by whether a civilian court or a military court, denial of consular access, or even if the International Court of Justice does rule that consular access be granted to it, Pakistan could argue that he'll have to appeal in one of the high courts of Pakistan for a retrial to happen, and there he can have legal recourse, a lawyer of his own choice, and a consular access. And the retrial, once that happens, then it will depend on what sentence that court pronounces. So the options are really wide open.
Amrit, what are the options before? Can this verdict by the International Court of Justice be challenged by either of the parties if it doesn't go their way?
Well, technically, yes. The decision can be challenged by either parties. They can go in for a review in the same court, that's the International Court of Justice. But that's a very rare case, because the review only happens if some new facts emerge which have not been considered during the trial at the ICJ. Okay. If such facts come to light, there are changed circumstances, only then does a review happen. And that at the ICJ is very, very rare. Technically speaking, if the verdict comes in either party's favor, say India's favor or Pakistan's favor, and Pakistan, for example, let's theoretically argue that it comes in India's favor and Pakistan refuses to honor it and insists that their military court, as it has insisted that their military court is a constitutional court which has been constituted specially for trying crimes related to terrorism, because a lot of terrorism emanates from that country and the world is concerned about that. It has been put on the grey list at FATF and it is taking measures to contain terrorism and things like that. India can technically approach the United Nations Security Council asking it to ask Pakistan to implement that decision. But in international law, sovereign law also holds a very, very significant position. Pakistan can argue that in its own national sovereign law, they followed the due process of law, and it will go ahead with whatever it deems fit. But things generally don't come down to that. So it's very, very important how the verdict by this court is really worded.
Well, Amrit, thank you and appreciate you joining us with those updates this morning. You have a busy day ahead. Take good care of yourself. We'll come back to you for more updates on that developing story where our focus is going to be across the day. Now back home, but staying with courts, but back home here in India, all eyes will be on the Supreme Court today to see whether it will put an end to the Karnataka political crisis just a day ahead of the trust vote. While hearing petitions from the 15 Congress and JDS rebel MLAs on Tuesday, the top court reserved its order on the plea seeking directions for Karnataka Vidhan Sabha Speaker K.R. Ramesh Kumar to accept their resignations. While the MLA's counsel alleged that the Congress JDS government is trying to coerce the rebel MLAs to support the government, the defense argued that the Speaker cannot be compelled to take an early decision on the resignations. Meanwhile, Karnataka Assembly will meet tomorrow at 11 a.m. to hold a floor test where Chief Minister Kumaraswamy will prove the strength of the coalition government. With a total of 16 MLAs having resigned, 13 from Congress and 3 from the JDS, be it acceptance or disqualification, either ways the strength of the ruling coalition will come down to 101, including the Speaker Ramesh Kumar, who can vote in a floor test only if it ends in a tie. If the strength of the Assembly goes down to 209, the magic number would be reduced to 105. Well, for more updates on the story, Vikas Sarthi, our correspondent, joins us on the phone line. Vikas, good morning. Vikas, what do we expect in courts today?
Well, Anil, Supreme Court had earlier passed 2 orders, but both those orders remain inconsequential. It is hoped that today, whatever Supreme Court says will end this controversy. Okay. Because Supreme Court, in the previous hearing, directed Speaker not to act on neither on disqualification petition and nor on resignation letters. But later on, counsel for the Speaker said that Supreme Court cannot give certain directions to the Speaker to act in a particular manner. So Supreme Court said that earlier, when the elections held in Karnataka, the same issue came before the Supreme Court, and at that point in time, Supreme Court said that floor test must be initiated by a particular date. At that point in time, Congress didn't oppose those directions, but now they are challenging Supreme Court's order, which states that Speaker should act in a particular manner. Today, Supreme Court will pass an order regarding that what should be done first, whether disqualification petition should be entertained first or the resignation letters should be taken into consideration first. This is the main issue before the Supreme Court, because both these issues are pending with the Speaker, and the rebel MLAs want that their resignation letters must be decided first, because they had already given resignation letters, and disqualification petitions come very late. So the main issue is that with how Speaker should go ahead with both these issues, and Supreme Court will give an interim direction today itself. So far as the larger issue is concerned, because court was of the opinion that there are some weighty issues, that at what point Supreme Court can pass directions to the Speaker. These are the larger portions, but today itself there must be an interim order which ends this controversy, which ends this political crisis in Karnataka.
Because what happens if the MLAs are disqualified? What happens in that process? You know, when it comes to the floor test that's expected tomorrow, how does the number game change?
Well, Anil, if Speaker disqualifies these rebel MLAs, first of all, they will not be able to hold any post of minister in the next government, even if this government collapses.
Okay.
So that is the main argument which is being pressed by the Council for Speaker and Council for the Chief Minister, that these rebel MLAs are trying to bring down this government. The intent is not bona fide, and because of that, Supreme Court must not entertain these petitions. Let Speaker decide those disqualification petitions. If that happens, then government may survive or may not survive, but these 15 MLAs will not be the part of next government. And if their resignation letters is accepted first, then certainly government will collapse, and these MLAs will be free to be minister in the next government. So the main argument here is that these rebel MLAs are trying to bypass the anti-defection law. They will again join the government, and then for 6 months they will be minister, and they will go for a by-poll. So this is the main issue which is being raised by the Council of Chief Minister and Council of Speaker, that this is an attempt to bring down the government so these MLAs can become minister in the next government.
Okay. One quick word, is the Karnataka crisis, expected to take a new turn today?
Well, it depends on how Supreme Court deals with it. If the Supreme Court allows disqualification petition, if Supreme Court says that Speaker is free to decide on both issues on his own, in his own wisdom, and let him decide, then certainly the issue will become more complicated, more controversies will be there. And if Supreme Court says that let resignation letters be decided first, then certainly the controversy will end here.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you, and appreciate your joining us on the phone line this morning. Vikas Sathya, correspondent, giving us an update on what to expect in the Supreme Court today when it comes to the Karnataka crisis. Moving ahead, large parts of the country continue to battle flood fury. Assam, Tripura, parts of Meghalaya, Bihar and Uttar Pradesh remain inundated. However, there was some relief with rain easing up on Tuesday. This meant a fall in water levels of most rivers in the region that are in a spate. Jal Shakti Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, accompanied by Assam Chief Minister Sarbanand Sonowal, undertook an aerial survey of the state. He also visited the flood relief camp in Majoli and assured all possible help from the centre, and stressed on the urgent need for long-term measures to tackle floods. Meanwhile, the monsoon session of the Assam Legislative Assembly has been postponed due to severe flood conditions in the state. Meanwhile, floodwaters have submerged 30 of the 33 districts of Assam, with over 40 lakh people affected. Tributaries of Brahmaputra have started falling, and the main river Brahmaputra is still rising from Guwahati to Dhubri, as per the latest report by the Central Water Commission. The road connectivity of various districts have also snapped due to flood waters. 90% of the Kaziranga National Park in Golaghat and Nagaon districts in Assam is still submerged. Meanwhile, in Bihar, Chief Minister Nitish Kumar said 25 people have so far been killed in flash floods that have affected 25.71 lakh people in the state. National Disaster Response Force, that's the NDRF, is rescuing people stranded in flood-hit regions and taking them to safer places in Bakska and Golaghat in Assam and Madhubani in Bihar, among other areas. NDRF teams and personnel were seen rescuing affected people on boats from the submerged areas and moving them to other places. In some relief, little to no rain was reported in Bihar. Meanwhile, the star sprinter Hima Das, who is presently in Europe for competitive meets, has deposited her half salary to the Assam Chief Minister's Relief Fund to aid relief efforts in Assam. In a tweet, she made an appeal to corporates and wealthy individuals to come forward with assistance in lieu of Assam floods. Well, to get us the latest on what's happening there in Assam as well as in Bihar, I'm joined at this point of time by two of our correspondents there reporting on the situation there from ground zero. Kamal Bora joining us from Guwahati and Ajay joining us from Patna. First, coming to you, Kamal. Kamal, how does the situation look like there on ground zero? Is the Brahmaputra level still rising, and it's already above the danger level, but is it still rising, and what are the expectations, the rain expectations for the day?
Yes, Anil, already you have rightly said that in many parts of the state, we haven't seen heavy downpour in the last 30 hours, and this is the very positive sign. So far we can see, even though this flood has devastated in a very huge way, but in the last 30 hours we haven't seen heavy downpour. Yes, some little shower we could feel today in the early morning only, but it was not very effective. But due to this, no downpour in the last 30 hours, water level are showing some receding trend.
Okay.
And even though it is showing some receding trend, but in most of the area, the water, Brahmaputra and its tributary is flowing above danger mark. That is a very problematic thing so far. But what we are expecting right now, as Met Department has already shown that, in the last few days, in the next few days, there will be not heavy rain, and if that comes true, then definitely we can see some positive changes. We can see some, water level goes down with a very high speed, and we can see that say that people can go home very early if there is no rainfall in the next few days. And apart from that, if we talk about relief operations, it's going on in full swing. Government has deployed about 500 boats for the rescue operations, and NDRF, SDRF, Indian Army, they are in the, they are already continuing their relief operations. Already more than 150,000 people have been evacuated from those danger zones. And even as you have said, Assam government,
Yeah, go on, Kamal, I'm listening. Well, we also got Ajay there joining us from Patna. Ajay, give us a sense of what's the weather condition there in Bihar and, the regions that are affected, and what is the, expectations? What's the Met Department's forecast for the day?
जी थॉमस, अभी वेदर की पोजीशन ठीक है। बारिश लगातार जैसे पहले हो रही थी नेपाल की तराई के इलाकों में, जिसके वजह से कोसी से जुड़ी सारी नदियों में पानी बढ़ा था। 3 दिनों से बारिश नहीं हो रही है उस तरह से। वेदर की स्थिति यह है, लेकिन अब पूरे बिहार के लोगों या पूरे देश भर के लोगों को ये कहिए कि जो राहत सामग्री है, जो बाढ़ से प्रभावित जो लोग हैं, उनकी देखभाल के लिए और उनको सुरक्षित स्थानों पर पहुंचाने के लिए या उनके लिए जो जरूरत की चीजें हैं उनको मुहैया कराने में सरकार की क्या भूमिका है या लोगों की क्या भूमिका है, लोग अपने स्तर से किस तरह से कर रहे हैं, इसी पर सबकी नजर लगी हुई है। कल विधानसभा में मुख्यमंत्री ने जो कहा कि हम सरकार के तरफ से जो स्थिति उत्पन्न हुई है उससे निपटने के लिए जो उन्होंने कदम उठाए हैं उसको विधानसभा विधानसभा में उन्होंने जानकारी दी और उन्होंने कहा कि हम 6,000 रुपये हर पीड़ित परिवार को देने के लिए हम प्रतिबद्ध हैं, हम देंगे। और उसके अलावा उन्होंने कहा कि 221 राहत शिविरें चलाई जा रही है, जिसमें 1.25 लाख से भी अधिक लोग वहां सुविधा का लाभ उठा रहे हैं। और साथ ही 26 एनडीआरएफ, एसएसबी और एसडीआरएफ की टीमें लगाई हैं जो पीड़ित परिवारों को सुरक्षित जगहों पर पहुंचाएंगी। और उसके अलावा जो तटबंध जहां जहां धंस गए हैं या टूट गए हैं, उनको मरम्मत के लिए सारी व्यवस्था लगाई गई है। और उन्होंने अपने इंजीनियरों को यह भी निर्देश दिया है कि 24 घंटों तक लगातार सुरक्षा की नज़र उस पर रखी जाए कि कहीं भी कुछ इस तरह की बात आती है तो उसको देखा जाए। इस तरह की चीज़ें हैं। और मैंने इस तरह के लेकर अब सरकार के अपने दावे हैं। दूसरी तरफ विपक्ष का कल विधान परिषद में भी हंगामा हुआ। और ये भी किशनगंज और फारबिसगंज कटिहार से भी खबरें आ रही हैं कि लोग जो है वहां सड़कों पर बारिश में माने बाढ़ में खड़े होकर सुरक्षा व्यवस्था को लेकर या राहत सामग्री को लेकर प्रदर्शन भी कर रहे हैं इस तरह के। और साथ ही कल मीडिया को जानकारी देते हुए एक चीज कहा उन्होंने, मुख्यमंत्री ने, कि जीआर मनी एक होती है जिसको 2017 में जब बाढ़ आई थी तो उस समय लगभग 40 लाख लोग इफेक्टेड थे। तो उसमें सरकार ने अपने तरफ से 2,400 करोड़ रुपए खर्च किए थे, जिसको सेंट्रल से रीइंबर्समेंट होना था। लेकिन मुख्यमंत्री ने कहा कि वो रीइंबर्समेंट हमको नहीं मिला है। और उन्होंने ये भी कहा कि नीति आयोग की अभी बैठक हुई थी, उसमें स्पेशल ध्यान देने के लिए उन्होंने आग्रह किया है नीति आयोग, खास करके आपदा से जुड़ी स्थितियां हैं। हमारे यहाँ हर साल बाढ़ आती है, हर साल स्थिति होती है। लेकिन ये मुख्यमंत्री ने कहा और उन्होंने ये भी दावा किया या विधानमंडल को, विधानसभा को उन्होंने आश्वस्त किया कि पूरी तरह से हमारी सरकार हर स्तर पर बाढ़ पीड़ितों की सहायता देने के लिए, उनको सुरक्षित स्थानों पर पहुंचाने के लिए, उनको बचाने के लिए प्रतिबद्ध है, संकल्पित है।
So surely the government and the NDRF teams there, are leaving no stone unturned to help the people who are affected there, reach safer zones and also providing them basic amenities so that they can live. Thank you, Ajay Bora, for joining us from Guwahati. Ajay for joining us from Patna, and Kamal Bora for joining us from Guwahati with those updates on the rain-affected regions. Meanwhile, back in the national capital, heavy rain slashed Delhi and its nearby areas, with Met Department forecasting more rains to continue till Thursday. IMD said that the sky will remain generally cloudy with little rain or light rain or drizzle expected. The department further added that winds over Delhi and NCR have changed to easterly, and so intensity of rains will increase gradually. Since the onset of monsoon on July 5th, the national capital region has recorded 54.2 millimeters of rainfall. Well, staying with weather, the Met Department has forecast heavy to very heavy rainfall at isolated places, very likely over Kerala and coastal Karnataka, and heavy rainfall at isolated places over Tamil Nadu, Puducherry, Lakshadweep, Karnataka, coastal Andhra Pradesh, Rayalaseema, Konkan and Goa, Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh, Delhi, West Uttar Pradesh and Odisha. Further, rough to very rough sea conditions are likely to prevail over southwest and central Arabian Sea, along and off Gujarat and Maharashtra coast, Maldives, Lakshadweep and Kerala coast. Squally weather is likely to prevail over North Andaman Sea and adjoining east central Bay of Bengal. Fishermen are advised not to venture into the sea. Well, after being drenched for several rain-filled monsoon days, Mumbai witnessed the now familiar incident of a building collapse. This time, it was a 100-year-old dilapidated building in South Mumbai's Dongri area that came down in a heap, claiming 13 lives. Many more could still be trapped under the rubble. 9 persons are being treated in hospital. While the rescue work goes on, a blame game has begun, begging the question, who's responsible? Not just for the loss of lives in the latest incident, but also preventing such tragedies from recurring. President Ramnath Kovind and Prime Minister Narendra Modi extended condolences to the bereaved families. They also hoped that the injured recover soon.
कौसरबा बिल्डिंग थी, वो कल 11:40 पे लगभग वो कोलैप्स हुई थी। उसके बाद से हमारी टीम आने के बाद जो लोकल बीएमसी के वर्कर्स है, फायर ब्रिगेड है, और उसके साथ हमारा अभी तक कंटिन्यू का ये चल रहा है, काम चल रहा है। तो अभी तक का जो अपडेट है, टोटल 22 लोगों को ये कर दिया गया है रिकवर, और 22 में से 9 लाइव है और 13 को हॉस्पिटल में डेड डिक्लेयर कर दिया।
Well, to give us the latest there from Mumbai, Shama Mishra joins us for more. Shama, good morning. Shama, what's the latest on the people still trapped there under the debris? You know, how is the evacuation going on, and how many people are roughly expected to be under the rubble?
Well, the latest is that the total number of deaths have reached to 13 when we have also spoken to the CFO, Rahang Dele, the Chief Fire Brigade officer over here, and he has said that the debris which is still there is about 1/4, and it may take around 4 to 5 hours to clear out that debris, and they are not sure of the head count, how many people would be still stuck under those rubbles. So they are now not taking any chance as to they would be leaving the rescue operations in midway or wherever, but they are sure that they will be clearing out the entire debris and bringing it to ground level. You can also see the JCB is coming here and taking all these rubbles that have been brought out from the inside of the building, and around more than 100 laborers are pressed into action for this particular thing. And we are also seeing that you know, many the locals over here are also helping these people in the rescue operations. However, yesterday we saw in the morning that the crowd control was becoming a difficult task for these people of Mumbai Police and Fire Brigade. But now, after we've spoken to the CFO, he said that since in the night there were no people, there were no onlookers, it was much easier for them to carry out the operation, carry out the search operation. We also saw the team of NDRF with sniffer dogs are already inside, and they are also continuing their search. More and more JCBs, the number of JCBs cannot be entering here. So there's only one JCB which is going and coming back in reverse and putting out the rubble. Because the rubble over here also, you can imagine this is the building of 4-story, and the rubble which would be coming out of it would be of a huge amount. So yes, removing that also is a challenge for the Mumbai Fire Brigade and NDRF. But yes, the rescue operation, search operation is continuing, and we are expecting that it may be over in 4 to 5 hours.
Okay, Shama, you know, do the rains there, you know, presently rains are on, does that compound the problem for the rescue work to be carried out there?
Oh yes, it is a problem over here, and we saw since yesterday it was not raining, and it was much easier for the people doing the rescue operations to carry out the search operations. But now it has started raining, but we are hoping that this rains would be only for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then it would go away. Otherwise, it will definitely hamper and hinder the entire search operation, and it will cause a lot of problem to the people who are already doing the search operations. Anil.
Okay, also a quick word, is there Netagiri being played over this particular issue, or you know, is there a, you know, has the state government take cognizance, and you know, is there a serious probe being conducted or probe being ordered into this latest accident?
Oh well, yes. We once we started doing the lives and phone-ins, we had mentioned that you know, the blame game would soon begin in this particular area. Even we saw that many leaders from the both Congress, NCP, and also from the BJP and the ministers, Radhakrishna Vikhe Patil and Girish Mahajan, they had come here, visited the site, and we know for a fact that you know, coming out from the NCP Congress, this blame game would soon begin, and it did begin yesterday. And now also we are hoping, because we spoke to Girish Mahajan yesterday, State Minister, and he did mention that Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis is likely to take a decision, or maybe discussing on this particular issue of the overall you know, the development of this particular place, or Mumbai for the cluster development, or for town planning. Because if you see over here, these buildings are all stuck to each other. Even the new developments that are coming in, new constructions that are coming in, is very you know, close to the earlier ones, and it is almost sticking to each other. So yes, there's no planning over here, and a major decision is awaited,
Okay.
and it is hopeful that the decision is likely to be today.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you and appreciate your joining us, Shama, with those updates there from Mumbai. Well, moving ahead, sky enthusiasts across the country witnessed a 3-hour-long partial lunar eclipse early today. The partial lunar eclipse, which is said to be the last of 2019, started at around 1:31 a.m. and remained partial till 4:29 a.m. The eclipse gradually grew and it was at its peak at 3 a.m. and it exactly seemed as if a chunk of the moon has been bitten off. A lunar eclipse occurs when the moon passes directly between the earth and into its shadow. This occurs only when the sun, earth and moon are exactly or very closely aligned, with earth between the other two. A lunar eclipse can occur only on the night of a full moon. Apart from India, the eclipse was witnessed in regions of Africa, Asia, Australia, Europe and South America. On to international stories. The United States House of Representatives on Tuesday approved a resolution condemning racist comments by President Donald Trump. 4 Republicans and an independent joined the 235 Democratic lawmakers who have a majority in the House of Representatives in supporting the resolution. The text strongly condemns President Donald Trump's racist comments that have legitimized and increased fear and hatred of new Americans and people of color. 2 days after Trump tweeted that 4 Democratic freshmen should go back to their home countries, though all are citizens and 3 were born in the United States of America, Democrats muscled the resolution through the chamber by 240 to 187 votes over the near-solid GOP opposition. The rebuke was an embarrassing one for Trump, even though it carries no legal repercussions, but the highly partisan roll call suggests it is unlikely to cost him with his die-hard conservative base. Germany's Ursula von der Leyen was on Tuesday elected the president of the European Union Commission following a secret ballot among MEPs. She was confirmed by a margin of 383 votes to 327. She needed the backing of 374 out of the 747 MEPs to win. With her vision of a greener, fairer and rule-based Europe, the first female EU Commission president will replace Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker on November 1st. She secured the backing of more than half of the members of the European Parliament on Tuesday evening. The Commission drafts EU laws, enforces EU rules and has the power to impose fines on member states if necessary. She is further expected to tackle the controversial issues such as climate change, trade and maintaining democracy in the bloc. Christine Lagarde, meanwhile, submitted a formal resignation as managing director of the International Monetary Fund on Tuesday. Lagarde resigned to prepare for the nomination process to be the next president of the European Central Bank and to allow the IMF to begin finding her successor. Announcement of her being the leading candidate for the ECB job came just 2 weeks ago. Her resignation will formally take effect on September 12th. The race is now to replace Lagarde at the IMF. Facebook is delusional to believe people will trust it with their money, a U.S. senator said on Tuesday as lawmakers from both sides of the aisle grilled the social media company on its plan for a digital currency at a hearing. Facebook is fighting to get Washington on side after it shocked regulators and lawmakers with its announcement on June 18 that it was hoping to launch a new digital coin called Libra by 2020. The Senate Banking Committee questioned David Marcus, the company's top executive overseeing the project, on issues ranging from how Libra could affect global monetary policy to how customer data will be handled. The Trump administration has said that there is an enormous potential for growth in the India-US relationship, while exuding confidence that the ongoing trade negotiations could be worked through because of the friendship between the two nations. State Department spokesperson told reporters that Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was recently in New Delhi for talks with the new Indian government, where he met with his counterpart and had an incredibly effective meeting. The spokesperson also welcomed the building of the Kartarpur corridor between India and Pakistan to help visa-free travel of Sikh pilgrims from India to the historic Gurudwara Darbar Sahib, the final resting place of Sikhism founder Guru Nanak Dev. On to sports, and first up, badminton. The 2019 Indonesian Open BWF World Tour Series 1000 will began in Jakarta on Tuesday. Top Indian shuttler Kidambi Srikanth won his first round against Japan's Kenta Nishimoto by 21-14, 21-13. Srikanth had reached the finals of the India Open this season and he would be looking to put another good performance at a tournament which he had won in 2017. Further in the day, 5th seed Olympic silver medalist PV Sindhu will open her against Japan's Aya Ohiri today. Besides B. Sai Parneet, who has looked in good touch, having reached the finals of Swiss Open, will be up against Hong Kong's Wong Wee Vincent. While HS Prannoy will face an imposing task of taming second seed China Shi Yu Kui today. Meanwhile, Saina Nehwal, the only Indian to win a title this season at Malaysia Masters earlier in the year, has been suffering from multiple injuries and will not feature in the prestigious badminton tournament. All the number one players in the 5 categories will take part in the tournament, which offers a total of $12,50,000 US in prize money. The tournament will conclude over the weekend, that's Sunday. The 21st Commonwealth Table Tennis Championship, India's men's team will be led by skipper Achanta Sharat Kamal and will start at favourites at the Jawaharlal Nehru Indoor Stadium in Cuttack. India are clubbed with Singapore and Scotland in Group B, while the top-ranked team England are placed in Group A and have Sri Lanka and Cyprus for company. With the format allowing 2 teams from each group to qualify for the second stage, Sharat and his team are confident of sweeping the gold medals. In the first group match today, Indian women will take on Scotland, followed by Singapore. The championship open with group matches in women's section for the team championship. Vijayveer Sidhu picked up his 3rd gold medal of the ongoing ISSF Junior World Cup in Germany, combining with Rajkumar Singh Sandhu and Adhar Singh to clinch the men's 25-meter pistol event on Tuesday. It was the 2nd gold of the competition. India maintained its top spot at the medal standings after day 3 with its 7th gold in a total of 16 medals won so far. Another medal came in the men's 10-meter air rifle with the trio of Hriday Hazarika, Yashvardhan and Parth Makhija winning the team silver with a combined score of 1,877.4, which was just 0.4 less than the gold winning score. Well, after a look at sports, it's now time to take a look at what's happening in the world of business with my colleague Ajay Mishra joining us.
Thank you, Anil. Welcome all to Finance World. Let's start with our top story, that is about taxes. The Central Board of Direct Taxes (CBDT) has clarified that no changes have been made in any of the income tax return forms, including ITR 2 and ITR 3, since the notification made on 1st of April, that is on the first day of this assessment year 2019-20. There were reports in the social media that the taxpayers were facing difficulties in filing returns of ITR 2 and ITR 3 due to large-scale changes in the ITR form on 11th of July 2019. It is stated that the software utility for e-filing of all the ITR forms has been released in May, and more than 85 lakh taxpayers have already filed their returns in ITR 1 till date by using the said utility, which has also undergone updates later. Therefore, the impression that the taxpayers are not able to file returns due to changes in ITR form is not correct, as more than 1.38 crore taxpayers have already filed their returns by using the utility released till date. The MS Finance, Anurag Thakur, has informed Parliament that as a result of government's 4R strategy of recognition, resolution, recapitalization and reforms, NPAs in the banks have declined by 1,06,032 crore rupees to 7,89,569 crore as on 31st of March 2019. Changes in credit culture has also been affected, with the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code (IBC) fundamentally changing the credit-borrower relationship, taking away the control of defaulting companies from promoters, owners and debarring willful defaulters for the resolution of process and debarring them from raising the funds from the market. Over the last 4 financial years, PSB have been recapitalized to the extent of 3.12 lakh crore rupees with infusion of 2.46 lakh crore rupees by the government and mobilization of 66,000 crore by PSBs themselves, enabling PSBs to pursue timely resolution of the NPAs. And the state-owned ONGC and Oil India Limited alongside private sector Vedanta walked away with almost all of the oil blocks auctioned in the latest licensing round. And speaking of this occasion, the Oil Minister Dharmendra Pradhan said that the more production of oil and gas is the priority of Modi 2.0 government as it looks to meet its rising energy demand of fast-growing economy. And the domestic indices ended higher on Tuesday, lifted by broad-based gains led by the sectors like financials, realty and FMCG. The upside, however, was capped by losses in the information technology sector. The benchmark S&P BSE Sensex settled 234 points or 0.60% higher at 39,131 level, with the Yes Bank, Tata Motors, Sun Pharma and NTPC being the top gainers. Among the losers, TCS, Mahindra & Mahindra and HCL Technologies lost the most. The broader Nifty 52 ended with a gain of 73 points or 0.63% at 11,661 level. The indices touched intraday high of 39,174 for the Sensex and 11,670 level for the Nifty 50. The broader market S&P BSE mid-cap ended 99 points or 0.69% higher at 14,565, while S&P BSE small cap added 37 points or 0.27% to close at 13,726. Sectorally, all the sectors ended in the green except IT and media. The Nifty Realty ended the day 2% higher, followed by Nifty PSU Bank index 1.7% up, Nifty FMCG index up by 1%, and Nifty Metal index which were up by 0.69%. Nifty IT index ended the day with a loss of 0.59%. Well, that's all in the finance for Anil.
Thank you, Ajay, for those updates from the world of business. Well, now moving to take a look at the newspapers in the national capital. The first story that we're looking at is from the Times of India, the front page, story on flights to get shorter, cost less as Pakistan opens its airspace. The Indian carrier had incurred losses close to 550 crores during the closure. Pakistan airspace was closed from Feb 27 to July 15th, or roughly around 138 days. Air India flying time for long hauls to United States increased by around 1.5 hours or 90 minutes. The Air India planes had to stop in Europe for fueling and also for a change of crew due to the longer time taken, and the total India-US travel time increased roughly by 3 to 4 hours. That's going to come down. India-Europe flying time increased by roughly around an hour. So all these things are going to come down as Pakistan has opened its airspace, and India is going to use that beginning today. Well, moving to our next story that comes from the Hindu. This is about the centre and Assam moving the Supreme Court for the sample re-verification of the NRC, or the National Register for Citizens. Seeks a 20% recount in border districts, extension of July 31st deadline for the final list. They have said that they need that a 20% sample re-verifications of the name should be conducted in districts bordering Bangladesh and a 10% sample re-verification in the remaining districts. So this is what they have said, and they want that the final publication of the NRC, or the National Register of Citizens, from July 31st. That's the date that was expected, now to a date in the future, or a future date. Well, our next look is at a paper from next look is at Hindustan Times. This is about poor monsoon and the concerns of 2016, like water crisis in South. It's brewing water concerns that we're talking about. Rainfall shortage is most severe in Southern Peninsula. Southern Peninsula, it's -28. In Eastern and North India, it's -22. Northwest India, it's -11. Central India, that's where it's lowest at -1. And if you look at it on an all India basis, it's -14. So surely cause of concern when it comes to looking at a water crisis there for India. A quick look at two more papers there. Economic Times, clearly after a dry spell that we have seen across the year, it's going to rain IPOs in the next 1 month. We have roughly around 9,650 crores. That's what the expected, the IPOs that are expected in the next 1 month. So it's going to be a season of plenty of IPOs coming. Only 8 companies floated IPOs in the first 6 months of 2019 compared to 24 in that year ago period. So clearly it's going to rain IPOs in the next 1 month. Our final look is at the Indian Express, and this is a sports story where the coach won't get a chance to pick his support staff. This is something very critical. The Cricket Advisory Committee will now appoint the head coach of Team India post that Caribbean tour, while the selectors will decide the support staff. This could lead to, a lot of quandary there and a lot of confusion there in Team India on how the support staff and the coach are going to work together. Well, now moving ahead, while clean toilets are a basic necessity of our times, their scarcity as opposed to demand can be openly acknowledged. Dealing with the problem in a unique way are two enterprising Pune entrepreneurs. Take a look.
The poor condition of public toilets is a big issue, especially for women. Sometimes, even in an emergency, people are reluctant to use dirty toilets. Two entrepreneurs from Pune came up with a solution that has benefited hundreds of women. And it's a clean solution. What's more, they are not made of brick and mortar. These are public buses that have been transformed into restrooms.
टॉयलेट्स अंदर के बहुत क्लीन है और विमेन जाके यूज़ कर सकते हैं, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है.
यूज़ करने वाले भी बोलते हैं कि ये सुविधा अच्छा किया है और ये ऐसा बहुत जगह होना चाहिए.
Ulka Sadalkar and Rajiv Kher are responsible for this mission and have both done commendable work in the field of sanitation. Sara Plast Private Limited, with the help of Pune Municipal Corporation, has built many bus restrooms.
पोर्टेबल टॉयलेट्स बनाए क्योंकि ये जल्द से जल्द आइडिया टू इम्प्लीमेंटेशन हो सकता था, क्योंकि परमिशंस की ज़रूरत नहीं थी, जगह की ज़रूरत नहीं थी और क्विकली इम्प्लीमेंट हो सकता था. तो उन्हें भी आइडिया बहुत पसंद आया और उन्होंने हमें बस सप्लाई किए जो स्क्रैप बसेस थे और हमने हमारी फैक्ट्री में यहाँ पे पुणे में बनाए हैं ये बसेस.
The buses have Western as well as Indian-style restrooms. The buses are powered by solar power, and a TV screen explains the cleanliness regimen to the users. The bus also has a juice stall and Wi-Fi for people's comfort and entertainment. So far, 11 bus toilets have been installed in busy areas of the city, and people are very happy. Clearly, out-of-the-box thinking can create unique solutions to some difficult problems in our cities. Malik Rukmangad and Ruhi Potdar for Good News India, DD News, Mumbai.
Well, Swachhata being taken to a different level altogether by that entrepreneurs there in Pune. It's time now to take a look at the weather in your city. Well, that's all we have time for in this edition of Breakfast Show. But before we wrap up, we leave you with colorful visuals of a river festival in Thailand, marking the beginning of the 3-month-long Buddhist Lent. Namaskar, enjoy, smile always.